Episode 7. Hi everybody, welcome back to the Felix Strange podcast. I'm your host, Ben Leffenchuk. You can call me Felix Strange. I'm bi and single. So I wanted to go over something that is interesting story about the story of the chiropractor, my film, my directorial debut, and honestly, the story itself that it is for the film, originally there was a different story, and that's what this episode is about. I wanted to discuss and go over that story with you guys so you can actually hear, you may not see the film as I originally wrote it, the original story, but at least you can hear it and know basically what it was going to be before I changed it. So yeah, I'm very glad that, let's just say this before I say anything else. I'm very glad that I changed the story from what it was. It wasn't, I had outline, so I have the outline for it. And the thing is, I had it all in format. So that's, what I'm saying, that's the best part, really, is it's in the format of a story. So you got your exposition, and then the rising action, the climax, the falling action, and the resolution. So for every great story, there has to be those, those devices. So that way, that way the story actually gets somewhere. So anyways, I had this all actually planned and written out in an outline. Of course, the story had the same title. I didn't change the title, I changed the story. So anyways, and I had drawings to go along with it, which were very good drawings, and they're really good to look at. You know what I'm saying? Looking back, this is the inspiration, for what the story became and for what it is. So, but it's just there's I will say there's one scene where it could have been totally, the way that the story is in the film. I'm glad that I changed that one scene. You know what I'm saying? And probably I think several others as well. But it's the forest scene, just so you know. And we'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, these characters were supposed to be a bit different, of course, than when I changed the direction of it. And I essentially just changed the story from, of course, like I said, from the original idea. I kept some of the main idea, but where basically he's on the train and I guess he has flashbacks, but in the film, honestly, in this actually I wrote a second draft of the script today, so now that should be hopefully the final draft for the time being, while I go back into production. But yeah, the thing is, I just wanted to share with you, like I said, this is the original story that I decided to scrap, and I didn't go with it because eventually, I kind of let it sit on the shelf and collect dust for a little while. And, I kind of I never essentially started writing the script, but I had this outline. And so, anyhow, there's. I think because of the fact that I didn't, write a script based on this story treatment, that's probably why I didn't make it then, or make the story based on this original idea. So anyway, here's the original idea of the story. Or should I say the original version of the chiropractor exposition. Scene 1. So it actually starts off with a train ride to a new town. Charles, the chiropractor, writes in his journal while having quick, vivid flashbacks of climactic moments within film. So you can see basically he's already having flashbacks, and that would have been the opening of the film there. And then it opens what it says. This is the last scene of the film shown at the beginning for effect. Then scene 2, it says 30 years earlier, exit train, home at last. So this is 30. This is the real beginning of the movie. We see Charles on the train, all in black and white, and getting off of train at station. He then hails a cab to his new apartment. He pays the driver, and with the key to his new home, he walks up the stairs to his room. Scene 3. New practice, first vacation. The next few days are spent exploring the town, but not much. He then has his job start up again. Charles meets, so this is where he meets her. He meets the young, lovely Elena. So apparently the name for the female character was not Lori, but Elena, at a bookstore. That's where he meets her. Apologizes for bumping into her and making her books topple over. I actually like this story in a lot of ways. Some of it, I think I might actually try and transition it into it. I don't know if I want to add some of this material from the original story, but I would definitely. I like how he meets her. That's a great, you know what I'm saying? That's really great, showing how he meets her at a bookstore, and her books topple over. He picks them up and returns them to her. He asks her on a date, and she says yes. Scene 5. Only in the movies, right? Romance and tragedy, showing her he can be untrustworthy. Elena tells Charles she needs space and wants to take a break. For Charles, this means breakup, so he ends up having an odd week. He picks up drinking and meets Ashley, young girl at the bar. He decides not to take her home. Yeah, he must have feelings for Elena still, you know what I mean? So this girl he really likes. Anyway, rising action. Scene 6, the next day. An old rival named Jonathan Kane. So that was supposed to be the name of the character, which becomes Mr. Garrison, which was his old partner. And I think the story from here on out, you're gonna realize, well, from the whole story, just how different it is from from what becomes the movie, or what there is so far. So anyway, let's continue. Scene 6. The next day, an old rival named Jonathan Kane recognizes Charles while he is out for a stroll in the evening. His rival keeps casual and hides his face whenever he looks his way. Charles boards the monorail, and the persistent Mr. Kane follows him home. Scene 7. 2 days later. Charles has tried to focus on his work and keeping in touch with family, but decides he can't wait no longer. He had to call her. Him and Elena smooth things out a bit over the phone, and they promise to try to work things out. He looks out at city as it rains. So that shot sounds familiar. Scene 8. Let's see. Scene 8. Better days. All for the worse. We see moments from several dates where you can tell they are very flirtatious and are no doubt falling for each other. One night while Elena is out of town, Ashley bumps into Charles on his way home, and Mr. Kane, spying, sees their meeting and devises a plan. Scene 09. Let's see. Work. Strange visitor. The days that followed were unusual. He had been getting prank calls at his work where they would hang up. One day, Mr. Kane decides to wear a disguise and walks in as one of Mr. Barker's patients. So apparently, Mr. Charles' name was Mr. Barker. So I don't know if that's true, Charles Barker. Yeah, that is no wonder that didn't work out. So anyway, let's continue here. Yeah, that doesn't make sense. But anyway, they have an odd conversation while Charles pops the man's bones. And he says, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer. Scene 10. Thanksgiving. Parked down the block, Mr. Kane sits and waits for his future prey. Finally leaving his home, Charles is followed as he then visits the grocery market to pick up something. And then as he takes off to his girlfriend's parents' house to have dinner, Mr. Kane, now knowing the location of the house and following her to her apartment the next morning, was one step away from his long-sought revenge. So I don't know what this Charles, what's his name, did to this other guy, but it must have been pretty bad. I don't know. Scene 11. 1 week later, Charles one day gets a call from Elena's cell phone. While he's leaving to see her, for a moment there is silence. Then a muffled voice says, "Hey there, stranger. Your pretty girlfriend and I were hoping you could try to stop me. If you think you can, and you think she's worth saving, you have to find me. Don't be chicken." Click. Oh my goodness. So, yeah, essentially the guy's baiting him. He's trying to blackmail the guy. Like I said, he's trying to pull a Wrath of Khan on him. And so we come to the climax here, scene 12. Turning point. Hearing this, he then realized who had his Elena and where to find him. Charles rushed over to the Walter Flux Park, which doesn't exist, I just made that up, and woods, where as children he and Jonathan Kane had lost the girl they both loved. Okay, so that tells you about the backstory right there. This tells you about the backstory. apparently of why he's trying to get revenge on Charles. Let's see. So let's read that part again. Hold on. At the park and woods, where as children, he and Jonathan. So the park actually has like a significance to their past, and that's why it tells why these characters were tied to each other and why he wants to get even. So yeah, whereas children, he and Jonathan Cain had lost the girl they both loved. She died by falling head-on into a giant stone. Charles claims he never witnessed it, but Jean, who did, lied and said she tripped and fell. Yeah, a lot of this doesn't make sense, and it kind of doesn't add up, some of it. So let's see how the end of this outline goes. Scene 13. Showdown with his Elena hostage. Charles tries to reason with Mr. Cain once his back is to her. She tries to make a run for it. Hearing the noise of her feet, Mr. Cain turns quickly and lunging at her. This is the original forest scene, by the way. And I'm glad, like I said, that I changed it, because this is ridiculous, as you'll hear from now on. The guy lunges at her, tackles her to the ground. He points the gun at Charles while holding her down. He gets up slowly and then, pointing the gun down at her, says, "I didn't want it to be like this." Scene 14. Murder under false pretenses. Charles says he'd never get away with this. And John Cain brings up Charles's dead ex-wife. More backstory there. And the time when they were kids, and little Cassie got pushed by Jean and died getting hit against that rock. Though he didn't know until he tells him who it was. It sounded plausible, but he couldn't let his grudge die. Scene 15. Forced to live without her. The sinister Mr. Cain takes away Elena's life, silencing her breath with the instant strikes. So this is why I'm glad I changed the story, because apparently the Lori/Elena character dies, killed by the bad guy, and for the sake of a happy ending in the film, I changed that, and apparently it's, I think you'll like this. I think you guys like the new version better, as I do. So anyway, let me finish the rest of the story here for you guys. So yeah, this is pretty tragic ending to her character, you know what I'm saying? With the instant strikes of 3 of his bullets, a police officer hears the shots, whistles, and runs to the scene. Cain gets a head start while Charles, holding the corpse, tells the man which way the killer went. So obviously, he can't, he's having a hard time dealing with what just happened. So there's a lot to the story. It's like another, let's just enjoy this for the time being. Falling action, scene 16, chase scene, busted. After chasing the only man in sight running from him, the cop shoots at him, and after a few rounds, clips Mr. Cain in his waist. He falls to the ground, and the officer calls in for the paramedics. They tend to him and take her body away. Scene 17, new friend's funeral. Deciding to leave town soon, Charles gets packed. He quits his job and lets them sell his shop. Calling the manager, he settles everything verbally. Now in Santa Cruz, he finds a new job So apparently he moves again to a new city or a new town, finds a new job and meets a few new faces and befriends several. So essentially he's trying to start over his life somewhere else. And of course this character's like always getting away. That was the main thing for this character, is he's kind of getting away from, I guess, where he's well known and stuff, for what he does. He was always meant as a hitman, and that's what's remained with the character, through the different versions. He then takes the train back to the town of his childhood for her funeral. Scene 18, new apartment scandal. Just when things were going great, things go sour. Charles is arrested outside his new home and brought to police headquarters. He is interrogated and held in captivity overnight. It turns out Kane blackmailed Charles and blamed the death of little Cassie on him. So, yeah, essentially, wow. Scene 19, proceedings. Apparently, as it goes, Charles's fingerprints were also on the gun Mr. Kane used to kill the lovely Miss Elena. The reason being was because as Kane stood over her with the gun, Charles rushed at him and grasped the gun to try to take it from him while they both tugged. Charles let go and Kane fired a warning shot past his head. Scene 20, main trial. The final decision of the jury is made and the verdict is in. Charles is innocent until proven guilty on both counts, and Jonathan Kane is charged with murder and also conspiracy. So apparently backfires on this son of a bitch. So anyway, it's called Karma. So that I'm surprised that shit was actually in the original fucking story. So anyway, here we go. Excuse my language. Charles comes back to his new apartment, but decides to enjoy the rest of the night. So he just goes out for a couple of beers. Alright, you guys prepare for the end of this story here. This is the resolution. Scene 21. 25 years later, Kane is sent out on parole, but decides to continue his hunt for Charlie Barker. Damn, that's a terrible name. Now that he's not locked up. Later, he takes a train, while in disguise, to Charlie's new hometown. After the detection agency realizes that Kane has left town, they send 2 undercover agents. Scene 22, close call. Let's do this again sometime. When Kane arrives, the agents are close behind. Charlie leaves his home to get a cup of coffee at a different coffee shop. Kane just happened to see Charles's car parked not far away. Then he spotted him and shot at him. He ends up missing twice and finally getting shot in the ass by an agent. 5 years later, scene 23, final entry, train ride. Before he says farewell to his friends and neighbors, he visits an old therapist from after the brutal murder of Elena to thank him. He sees a few of his best buddies and wishes them well. Later at the station, Charles tinkers with one of the belongings Elena left him. As a gift, maybe. He then boards his train, hoping his next destination is meant to be, and begins writing a final entry on the last pages of his little journal. He tucks the journal into a bag, looking out the window. Closing his eyes, we, as the audience, sees Elena's smile. So he closed. Yeah, that's interesting. He looking out the window. Then he closes his eyes, and he sees her face, her smile, and then it says "Finis." And yeah, that was So there it is, guys. That's the outline for the original story outline of what it would have been if I had decided to keep that. Yeah, the story the way I originally had it in mind, and the fact that I changed it to what it is now is. And the fact that it's now into a second draft, it shows that I'm actually just adding these scenes so that it adds more to the story itself and the characters and their motives and the way they feel, why they're doing what they're doing or why they say what they say. Because, each character is going through their own thing, so, and, as they're a part of the character Mr. Charles' life. So now I'm talking about the new story, which is this is the story. You know what I'm saying? It's not the original version anymore. That is a scrapped idea. So you just got to hear what it would have been like, what the story could have been, and basically what the original inspiration for the story as it is, and the film. And like I said, there's a lot of pieces that I'm, some of the settings are the same, but the scenes are very different from the original, and I changed it to definitely make it better. I'm very happy with where the story is that I rewrote, years ago, before I started doing the drawings and the artwork for the piece, and actually starting production filming last year. So it's nice to see where this goes. So it's been really great to just get a chance to find this original idea and go through it one last time. But yeah, dude, seriously. Like I said, if I do add any parts to from this original story outline, then if I decide to, I think I would go with the scene of how he meets her in the bookstore, and also maybe one or two other scenes, just to add more to the flashback sequence where he's on the train and remembering his time with her and how things led to essentially turn how they did, and why he needs to do what he needs to do. So anyhow, I hope you guys enjoyed listening to that, and as much as I guess at the time I enjoyed writing it, and I thought it was a good story idea at the time. Reading it back now, I know I did the right thing by changing the majority of the story. Honestly, I really did start over. I took a couple key ideas, like him on the train and having the memories and stuff like that. But in my film, the story doesn't start off that way, and it doesn't end that way. So in a lot of ways, when I did rewrite and start over with a brand new idea, I went for something that was, has a happy ending for, like I said, for the Lori character, and like he tells her, is at least you'll live, and it turns out there's somebody watching her back. Even though she allows for Mr. Charles to be taken out. So that's kind of a question why she doesn't say Mr. Charles, but she saves his girl after, does he know, or does she know somehow what Mr. Carrison knows is that she must have drank the elixir. So who's making this elixir? He's got a better name Okay, you know what I'm saying? He's a more interesting character, and especially since I started filming so yeah, like I said, thanks for listening, guys. I'll let you know again when I do more work on the film and what happens with getting other people onto the picture as well. So all in good time, ladies and gentlemen, and good time for all things. And I know God's got my back. I just need to be patient, and that's what we all need to do. Just take one day at a time, and with the time we have, just make the most of it, and do everything that we can to, if we're have that free time, just to and that ambition, that drive, and that will to do something, meaningful, and if you have a dream to actually focus on, making a reality, and that's me, and some of my realities become dreams. So.